Welcome back to Fast Gadgets. So today I wanted to revisit the Emachines that I had been working on before. I tried to do a processor upgrade on it, but it ended up that the processor, I think it was like an E7200 Core 2 Duo processor, was just a little bit too new for the motherboard. So I've actually got a couple of different upgrades I'm going to do. In addition to the fact that the last time I worked with the Emachines, I brought it up to 4 gigabytes. I actually do have a new processor here. And this particular processor is a Core 2 Duo, just like the previous one, but it is actually an E6700. All right, sorry for the noisy bag there. So the processor that I have now is actually, let's see if we can get an image of it and get it in focus. So this new processor is a Core 2 Duo E6700, which is a considerable upgrade from the current processor that's in here. So the current processor that's already in here is a Celeron processor 440. That doesn't really tell me how fast it goes. It has a 160 gigabyte hard drive already built in. So I may put a second drive in here. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I have several drives that I could put in here if I wanted to. And originally it had 1 gigabyte DDR RAM, but I did upgrade this to 4 gigabytes. I really don't remember what it was running when I left it. So the plan is, first thing I'm going to do is boot it up, find out what software I have on it and what hardware is running in it. And then I'd like to benchmark it. Now it's only a 32-bit. Currently, because it's running, I'm pretty sure it's running Windows XP, so I'm going to do a benchmark. Then we're going to put the new processor in and the video card upgrade, and we'll redo the benchmark and see what we get. All right, well, I was going to put the video card in now, but I did grab my VGA to HDMI converter. So I now have the the video converted, so I'll be able to see it on my monitor. And the system is a little bit dirty, but hey, you know what? That's not such a big deal. I think I'm going to borrow the USB network card. I'm pretty sure I was using it on this computer the last time. And I'm going to go ahead and stick it into this computer. That way I can get internet again. I'll use it in the back. And I have a Wi-Fi mouse that I'm going to use. I'll put that in. And I have an ancient keyboard. I gotta love these things. It's one of those keyboards that are a split, and I did clean it off. That way it isn't filthy. You don't have to look at a filthy keyboard. Now the computer inside is pretty dirty. So if it passes muster, it boots up with the RAM, boots up with the new CPU and the video card, and I get the drivers working, I'm gonna go ahead and clean it out. One of the things I really like about this case, and I'm pretty sure in the future at some point, and pardon my squeaking tripod, because it takes a standard ATX motherboard, and that's what it's got in there right now, I think in the future I'll probably upgrade the power supply and put in a Ryzen processor motherboard combo and do an upgrade on this system. I really like the chassis. It's super lightweight. I'm going to have to figure out and probably do some mods for more fan. Now there is a spot on the back here where it can take another fan, so I could put one in there and I could put another one in the front. I've got some pretty large fans that I could use in here to keep it cool. That's my thinking. All right, let's get this thing going. I'm going to go ahead and start it up. Hopefully it'll look a little better. So it always does that thing where it powers up. There's a click, and then it comes up again. So the fan's running. Oh, it's not happy about something. One long beep, huh? Used to be working perfectly. I might have to check that processor. I may have left the E7700 Core 2 Duo in there that I had in there before. Well, let's power it down. And I'm going to push the memory in, just make sure the memory's in. Check my video card. Make sure I've got that plugged in completely. I wonder, you know what I'm thinking? This video needs to be powered. I forgot about that. Swing this back over here. So there's a tiny USB plug in here, a micro USB. And I'm going to plug in here. That's where this device gets its power from. I thought it had to do that, but you know how things are. You think you remember everything and then you forget. Okay. That should do it. Let's power it up again. See what happens. See if we get anything on the screen. Nothing on the screen yet. No beep this time though, but nothing on the screen. I think I'm going to have to take that fan off and heatsink and see if I ever put the Celeron processor back in there. I may have never put the Celeron in there, which is good because I have the replacement processor. I know the RAM works because I tried the RAM before, so I know all that stuff works. All right, well, I'm going to power it down again. What I'm going to do is, and this is interesting how this works, in order to get the heatsink off, I have to also take the fan off. So you unscrew the screws for the fan, and it will actually make the heatsink fall off. So you hear that little pop? All right, well, bad news of a sort. Let's see if we can get this to come into focus for you. So this is the Celeron processor indeed. So I did put the Celeron back in. It's the 2 gigahertz Intel 2006 448 Celeron SL9XL. And for some reason, it's giving me that beep code. Maybe I'll try a couple other things. I'm going to put it back in because I do want to get a benchmark on this thing. I'm going to put a little bit more thermal grease. Whoops, that's way too much. I hate when that happens. I know there's a lot of people out there who say you can't have too much thermal grease, but I don't want to make a huge mess of this when I'm about to do a processor upgrade anyway. So I'm going to try and contain the amount of grease there. I'll just spread it out a little bit. Put the cap back on. Clean all the grease off my fingers so it doesn't get on my clothes. Oh, so sorry about that, focus. There we go. All right. And I'll worry about cleaning that off a little later. I can't imagine why it wouldn't work. Okay. You know how old computers are, though. Just because they worked one day doesn't mean they're going to work another day. I had this old saying, you know, if you move a computer 6 feet, there's an excellent chance it'll never power up again. Sad but true. Well, I think I'm going to take out, I have an Ensoniq card in here as well, so I've got a sound card in here that will work great with older DOS applications, games and such. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to take that out. So I'm going to take everything out that I can, and we're going to power it back on again, see what happens. So my monitor here is supposed to auto-detect video. I guess I could try putting the video card in and see if I get some kind of video response, because I'm getting absolutely nothing, although I don't get a beep code anymore. Well, we're going to find out. We'll just temporarily put the video card in. Easier said than done. Okay, let's see if the GT640 1GB video card upgrade helps us at all. Well, after a while of trouble checking, my son actually gave me a VGA cord, which seems to have helped. I also took out one of the 2GB DIMMs, and I did get a single beep telling me that it was able to boot up. So now I'm going to try and do F2 and enter the BIOS. All right, well, I switched out the DIMM. Sorry about that. I did rotate the DIMM. I don't think there's anything wrong with the DIMM. Let's have a look at PC health. Smart fan controls enabled. Shutdown temp isn't. I'll probably enable that because I'm putting in that other processor soon. And since it's acting like such a booger, I'm going to load the fail-safe defaults. I cannot get this thing to reboot without pulling the power plug. So let's save and exit setup and see if it'll actually reboot without having to be powered off completely. Okay, so we did get a reboot with the fail-safe settings. And thankfully the CPU fan gets much quieter when it's not too awfully busy. So what kind of Windows did I put on here? I'm beginning to think Windows 7. Well, that would be cool. So I can only get this thing to boot up with 2GB of RAM in it, yet it used to work fine with 4GB. So I'm going to load the optimized settings and see what happens. As long as I get a beep, I do. Okay, so I'm going to power it off again. And I'm going to put in the other 2GB DIMM. And power it on again and see if we get a boot up. Okay, so I got a beep. Lots and lots of updates. Still waiting. Wow. Every computer should have an SSD. Hope I can remember the password, that's all I gotta say. If I were smart, I'd put in the password, I would know. All right, well, it looks like I did take some time and set things up on this particular computer. I've got the GeForce driver here, and I've also got my Linksys set up, which is a very nice USB AC adapter. Now it's trying to authenticate, of course, but it's not going to be able to because I've changed my password recently on my Wi-Fi connection. So I'm going to have to go in there and see if I can change that. Well, it's been a while since I've been around Windows 7, that's for sure. I needed to do manage wireless networks, and I was connected to the 3.5 gigahertz. Let's see. Connect automatically. Network key. I just need to change this to reflect the new password, and it should get me connected. So Windows Update, crazy. I don't remember having Windows Update set to automatically do updates. I usually turn it off. So let's find out if it's turned on here on Windows 7. No, it's not. Okay. The screen looks really good for VGA. Right now I'm getting 1920 by 1080, which I'm kind of surprised. Using the built-in card, I haven't been able yet to get the 3D video card working, so we're going to have to try that next. But before I do that, I thought it would be kind of fun to do a benchmark on this system and then compare it when we put the Core 2 Duo processor in. Well, this thing isn't going to win any speed awards now, is it? So we've got a single core of 1091, and it only has one core, so it actually came in with a multi-core score slower than the single core. But I do like that I can do Geekbench 4 on here, so I can at least get a commonality with all my other test systems. So I'm going to shut this down, and I'm going to put in the Core 2 Duo 6700, and hopefully it'll boot back up, and we're going to try it again. All right, well, that took quite a while. I actually had to run it 3 times. I found out that the time date stamp on the clock unfortunately got set back when I pulled the power plug. So when the scores tried to come up, I got a HTTPS error. So when I went and reset the time and date and ran it again, Geekbench crashed. So I had to reboot the computer and make sure that the time date clock settings were correct, and then I could rerun it. So definitely better than the Celeron. The Celeron single core did come in at a 1091, and we have a single core on this system with the Core 2 Duo 6700 of 1640 and a multi-core of 2737. So definitely better. I love how this thing vibrates. The only problem, of course, is it's really not going to help me much if I can't get the video card working. So that's the last thing I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to power the system down and put the video card in and hope for the best. All right, well, I'm really hoping this will work. Now we've got the BIOS settings optimized, and we have the maximum amount of RAM is working in it. So I'm really hoping this video card will work. If it doesn't work, this is the second computer that I had a problem with it, so I might actually go ahead and buy a new one and try it in my other more powerful computer and see if I can get that video card working in there. So I'm going to put this card in its slot, get a nice healthy click. It, of course, takes an HDMI connection, so we have digital, and it looks much nicer. Make sure it's sitting well in the slot, and we'll power it up. Well, that's a good sign. Ooh, we've got something on the screen. It's a good and bad thing all at once, because it's like, why didn't all this stuff work in the first place? All right, well, my camera stopped because I ran out of storage space, but it did come up on with the video card in. So I've got the GT640 NVIDIA card in. Forgot where I was. I'm typing my password in. It looks much sharper on the monitor. The only downside is I'm wondering why it was having a problem coming up in the first place, which leads me to believe there's probably something wrong with this motherboard. But I do now have the GeForce MX running. So let's go to, let's do screen res. Now I did disable several of those ports, so that might have had something to do with it. Let's go to advanced settings. And there's my NVIDIA GeForce GT 640. This device is working properly. I'm going to go find a game and see if I can get a game working on here. Well, that happy whirring you hear is the CD-ROM drive, which appears to be working. So I'm going to do a Half-Life install. And yes, I want to run setup. Let's do this. All right, let's look at the config. And whoops, that's audio. I want video. So it's only doing, actually it looks like it's running in software. Well, we'll switch to Direct3D and see what it does. It's working. Looks really, really good, actually. A little bit dark, but other than that, it looks nice. I wish I could hear it. Running very fast, no stuttering of any sort. This is one of my favorite games. And of course, they completely redid it using a new engine. I forget if it was the Unreal Engine or what they used, but it worked pretty well. I love the intro of this. It just really makes the whole thing. You can see the graphics are definitely the old type. All right, well, in the long run, things seem to work out pretty well. I'm thinking that the system's going to work for what I want it to do. I'll be able to play some slightly older games, you know, vintage games according to the time of the system with the Core 2 Duo and the GT 640 1GB. I think it's going to play halfway decent, and overall it seems like things are working well. The downside is it was a little flaky on boot up. I seem to have to keep working with it, so I think what I'll do next is power it off, let it cool down, and maybe pull the power plug and see what happens when I try to bring it back up, and if it'll actually boot back up without any problems. But overall, it's working great. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time on Fast Gadgets.